Hi everyone. Hi everyone. Hope you can see me. I'm Geetika, and I'm the founder of VAWAA, which is Vacation with an Artist. It's just so lovely to have you all here today. We've been waiting to speak with Debra. It's been years since I have followed her, so I'm just very honored to have her here today. For those of you who don't know VAWA, it stands for Vacation with an Artist, but the way we define vacation is really not just the idea of traveling to a place, but also traveling the minds of amazing masters all around the world. And we truly believe that by tapping into the wisdom of amazing creative masters around the world, we can cover ourselves better and become better as humans, and the whole world can be a lot better if we just had more creative masters sharing their wisdom, and also people taking the opportunity to tap into it. They kind of they represent humanity, they represent arts and culture, which are the fingerprints of our society. And it's just so amazing to have artists like Debra who live that, who walk that talk, and are a real embodiment and example of that. So Debra doesn't know this actually, but I saw Debra in a photograph in 2014, and I was just blown away by her spirit, by her boldness, creativity, her experimental spirit. And to me, instantly, she became someone that I aspired to be, and how I want to live my life, a full life, a free life, a creative life, full of passion. And today to have her here is such an honor. And this will be more like a casual chat with her. Um, and then of course we'll have a little Q&A. So what I forgot to mention is as part of VAWA, you can book apprenticeships with master artists all around the world. We have artists in 27 different countries, to about 95 plus artists representing art forms across sculpture, woodworking, textiles, Moroccan geometry, Ebru in Istanbul, calligraphy in Japan. And you can book, when we can travel, you can book one-on-one apprenticeships with these masters. But these days you can also learn from them in a group setting online. But today it's more of a chat because this is something that we can do while we are at home. So without further ado, Debra is I don't know how many of you have seen the film Advanced Style. Advanced Style is a beautiful film that showcases 7 workers who live an extraordinary life. And Debra is one of those creatives. So she's the star of the film. She's an artist. She was an educator. She also ran a floral business. And so, yeah, today I want to get to know her. But before, let's have her say hello. Hi, Debra.
Good morning, everyone. This is a day I've been waiting for a while. So it's a pleasure to be here with all of you, all from all over the world. It's a lot of you got up very early to be part of this.
My God, I just love your hat and your earrings and like your entire outfit. Like, can you show us like your entire outfit? Like, I
Well,
see you so underdressed.
The earrings are very special. I just made a new friend online, Kay Denmark, and she happens to live right in the neighborhood where I used to live on the Upper East Side. And she sent them to me. So I had to wear them today. And then I try to construct an outfit based on that. And this is a piece I just sort of finished. It's all found metal from the streets of San Miguel de Allende, mostly bottle caps, and then mounted and strung on old cable. And then of course my bracelets are my cuffs that I'm famous for, made from toilet paper rolls and date pits and paint. And the hat, of course, everybody knows is Viva paper towels. I started making them about 7 years ago. There was a roll of paper towels sitting on the dining room table that Stan had bought, and I picked it up and I said, oh, this is very textile-like. Having had a textile background, having studied with my friend Elka, it was like, okay, I can just treat this like it was fabric. So I twisted, I folded, and the hats came out of that. And that's what I've been doing. I make hats out of a variety of things, which I'll show you later, but the paper towels have become a major part of my repertoire.
So Debra, I mean, you are just so creative. How did it all begin? Like you said, you've been like this since you were 3 years old. Like how did it all begin?
Well, I have an older sister who I think is online, I hope. And we used to play a lot. We would take dancing lessons and piano lessons, and we both loved to dress up in color and texture. And my mother supported it. So she gave us piles of fabric, her old hats, and dressing up and dancing around the house was not frivolous. It was being creative, and it was being expressive, and it was something that Sidonia, my sister, and I could do together. So it was an act of play, and it was an act of joy. And then we were always allowed to choose whatever we wanted to wear and shop and buy whatever we wanted, because we had a sense of style and a sense of independence and boldness. And my mother just supported that. And my grandmother also. I love telling the story. When we were very young, we'd go to grandma's house, and she had the old treadle sewing machine, and we'd go and we'd take the drawer with the buttons out and dump it on the living room floor. And my grandfather would say, oi, 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 they're making a mess. And my grandmother would say, be quiet, they're being creative. And of course, that runs through every cell of my body. You cannot be creative unless you can make a mess. And there's no such thing as a mess. It's a creative act. It's a process. So, just jump in and enjoy it.
Right. It's like creativity is a mess.
Yeah, you've got to get somewhere. So it's the journey, My favorite quote that I say is, with creativity, there are no rules. And where there are no rules, there is no fear. So in being creative, and we all don't have to make a masterpiece work of art, it's the creative process. So it's a process of play, and you can't make a mistake. It's just that we learn in school, this is not the way you do it. So we get reprimanded at a very early age, and that sits in our gut and prevents us from exploring and being bold. So we've got to get rid of that old lady first grade teacher waving her finger at us. I can still feel it.
Well, that's so true. Talking about school, that's what happens to most of the adults, right? Like we grow up and we are looked at weird. And so like, as you were growing up, you were in school, like probably others were not as creative as you were, or they didn't feel as free. And like, how did you go about in your school or in your teenage years? Like, how did you, look at those staring eyes or think, have people call you weird or something?
Well, we mostly grew up in New York, and then junior high school, as happened in the 50s, we moved to the suburbs. And it was very, very weird. We didn't get bullied, but we certainly got looked at because we were wearing black leotards and Italian ghillie shoes, and everybody was still in bobby socks and saddle shoes. And we also grew up, since I was 4.5, as vegetarians. And so we not only looked weird, but we always ate weird food for lunch. Yeah. So we were curious objects, and admired, not bullied. So it was kind of interesting, and we were always considered nonconformists. So it was okay. We kind of used it as a definition. We kind of flaunted it. I made it fun.
Yeah, you just took it in your stride and turned that into your superpower.
Yeah. Rather than run from it, And then we still had our friends in New York, like my friend Ellen, who I think is online here, who was a friend of mine since first grade. And so we'd always come into the city. We never went to the football games, and we never went to the sock hops. Every Friday we came into Manhattan and went to the Village and went to the theater and things like that. We just couldn't relate to the suburban lifestyle. It didn't work for us. Mm-hmm. So you adjust.
And then what happened? Like, so you decide now it was college time, and then what did you decide? Like, how did you decide what you want to do next? Because you were playing with so many things. How do you even go from there?
Well, my older sister, who I admired and followed, she went to the Philadelphia College of Art and studied textiles. It was either going to be interior design or textiles. So she kind of combined them. And then, of course, being the little sister, I said, okay, me too, me too. So when I went off to college, I went to an art school also. And the first 2 years was general. And then in my junior year, I decided textiles. And so that's where I met my good friend, Elke Kuhn. She was our professor teaching printed textiles and woven textiles. And they were splendid years. I mean, we were a very small group. Elke was only a few years older than us, so we were almost like a peer group. And we just played together and we expressed and we explored. And that was fabulous. And then I decided to go to graduate school after that. So I applied to a few places and I didn't get into Cranbrook, which is where I thought I wanted to go, but I did get into UC Berkeley. And that was the best thing that ever happened to me. That totally changed my life because my professor, Ed Rossback, was the most supportive, creative, incredible human being I have to this day met. And I used to say that education was all about intimidation until I was working with Ed Rossback, and he supported any aspect of creativity. There was no wrong. It was like, okay, so go further, take it further, explore more. It was never a no. And it was never, this is horrible. And so that just opened up. Plus living in Berkeley was, during the whole free speech movement and everything else, just totally changed my life. And that started in 1967. Mm-hmm. And that's when I started to work with found materials and sustainability, even though the word didn't even exist then. And I've been working with those kind of materials for the last 50 plus years because they speak to me. And I trust my inner knowing and I follow that wisdom. And if I find found material like this necklace, that's what I work with. I got several friends online here like Marsha and Martina. They also work with found materials and one of a kind and eco and sustainability and zero waste.
Yeah, well, you use this word trust. You said you trusted yourself. That's just so hard for most of us because we're always doubting ourselves, or we don't know if it's right, especially when you're trying to play or an experiment. Like I know, like you have your 4 T's that you say. Like tell us more about this trust thing. How do you yeah.
So I came up with this mantra a couple of years ago, the 4 T's. When you're teaching, you're trying to come up with things that you can express and explain to students that they can walk away with something to hang on to. So the 4 T's to me, the first one is the truth. And we all know our truth. It's just that it's been buried so far down because of our education, because of our culture. So if we really go inside and go really deep in our gut, we know what our truth is. We know if we want to be an artist or a writer or have children or not have children or live on the East Coast or the West Coast. And so when we finally get in touch with that, we really have to listen to it and trust it, because it's too easy to judge it, criticize it, and say, oh no, I can't be an artist. Oh no, I can't go live in California. And so first it's truth, then it's trust. And then we have to be tolerant. We really have to tolerate what it is that we're seeing. And then we have to wrap it in tenderness and embrace it with tenderness, and then put it out there in the world and trust that the universe will support us. And then give everyone else the space to have their 4 T's and find their path. And it work. And when you're 20, you're not always sure that you know that. But of course, as you get older, you begin to see that the journey really is there to support you. As they say, the universe has your back. But we don't always trust the universe. We think our intellect and our reasoning and all that baloney is the answer. But if we go deep inside and really listen to our voice, then we know who we really are. And then we have.
Wow. Wow. So these 4 T's, like these are pretty awesome. Like I would love to, like, I should write it on a poster and put it in my house.
Yeah.
So it's
Okay.
like
easy enough. The
yeah.
truth, trust, tolerance, and tenderness. Tenderness is very important, especially in our culture. We seem to be so harsh and pushing all the time and striving for success and striving for money and recognition. And we forget that life needs to be tender, you know, tender to ourselves first. And I mean, look at what's going on now. Let's not even go there, but, you know, we got to get back to some more self-love and human love.
So much of that. And I think tolerance is also really hard. Tolerance of ourselves and others. Were there times where you found yourself at like a point where you were really struggling with one of these aspects? You know, like these are your mantras, but like you reach a point sometimes where you push to the edge and these mantras kind of challenge you. Like, did that ever happen to you?
Absolutely, absolutely, many times. But particularly the biggest time was like 41 years ago when I divorced my husband and I left my very cushy job at the University of California at Davis, teaching everything I loved. And I said, I'm going back to New York, and I'm going back to New York alone. So I did that, and I had no idea what I was going to do here. You know, I didn't have a job set up. I don't have really any job skills. And I struggled. I was, you know, making art. I was making a lot of found object jewelry and showing it, but can you make a living off of that? And teaching here and there, but I was really down in the dumps and wondering, what am I doing this for? Why don't I just find a career that I can go have a 9-to-5 job and be normal? And so I struggled with that. And fortunately, I had friends and family who supported me, and I worked on it, and it was one step at a time, and I just persevered. And it's like everything else in life, it's ups and downs, and it's a journey, and you just have to get through those periods. And you need to use your creative talents and your friends and family to support you to get through.
Yeah, so true, so true. So in that moment, like, were you thinking of these mantras, or like, how were you making those decisions in that time? Like,
well, I've always been on a spiritual path. My mother was very spiritual, and she believed in meditation, and so for many years, I went to Unity, which was at Lincoln Center, Philharmonic Hall, with Eric Butterworth, who was an amazing teacher. And I just, you know, relied on that positive thinking and writing lists and being supportive of myself and staying healthy and yoga and all those things that get us out of the doldrums. And of course, friendships. And then, you know, meeting up with other friends and being creative and trying to solve these problems at that time. And I remember in 1980, shortly after I moved back to New York, a whole bunch of friends from California, from Berkeley, moved to New York, and they weren't New Yorkers. And so we used to have these morning breakfasts and talk about jobs, boyfriends, apartments. And I would always say, New York is the most networking town. If you need anything, job, apartment, boyfriend, don't put it in the New York Times classified list. Just run your mouth and things open up, because New Yorkers love to share their wealth. And I think it's still true. That's, you know, that's how I met you. That's how all the doors have opened for me, just by being present, being visible, and allowing. Allowing is another very important word.
Yes.
And allowing, the gerund, allowing as a process, as opposed to allow, which is kind of like forceful, but allowing is the process of allowing, you know, so you have to be in it.
Wow.
With it, you know.
Wow. Well, I'll let that sink in for everyone, because that was powerful. Well, so okay, so you arrived in New York, you started working with your sister, and then like how did you get back to making all these things you're making? Like what was that process like? And yeah, how did you get back to doing this and what does it look like now?
I was always doing it. I never stopped. It was just that I was exhibiting nationally and internationally, but not necessarily making enough sales to survive. So I was having an exhibit in a gallery on 54th Street, the Florence Dual Gallery. And she and her family lived in this incredible brownstone, and her husband ran a textile business on the top two floors. And one day he came to the gallery and he heard me saying, but, and he said, well, you know what, Deborah, you're into textiles. Come work for me. I run this huge corporation. So I did that for a year till I almost went crazy because it wasn't exactly what I loved doing, but I had to prove to myself that I could. And then after that, I quit that. And my sister and I had a catering business for a while, even though she had a full-time job in the interior design trade. She was involved with rugs and carpeting for the last 47 years. She only retired a few months ago. And, but she loved to cook. So we started this catering business, and it was mostly for gallery openings and the crafts museum closing and the crafts museum opening. And we were promoting positive, healthy food. You know, we did sweet potato chips before anybody did, and deep fried seaweed knots. And people were always curious, and we would say, just eat it and enjoy it. I'll tell you what it is later. And then a while after that, I went into the flower business with another friend of mine who happened to also be a textile artist. And I didn't know anything about horticulture, but Susan had a phenomenal garden. And I said, okay, so flowers, it's the same thing as textiles. It's linear, it's color, it's texture, and it's placement. And I'll learn the horticultural part as I go along. She'll train me. So we did that business for 16 years. And it was very creative. And, you know, we decided it's not always easy to sell jewelry made from found materials, but it's easier to sell a service. And so either cooking and catering or doing flower arranging is a creative service that people want. So we had many, many clients in the D&D building, the decorator and designer building. And they appreciated our very bizarre Baroque style. And we had some very famous restaurants. And we did that till we couldn't stand up any longer. And it's you know, everybody thinks it's a very glamorous business, but it's very tiring and very exhausting. And you're often dealing with clients who say, well, why did that tulip keel over? Well, that tulip keeled over because it's a living thing. And sometimes it doesn't live for a week, or one is weaker than the other. So we finally closed it at about 2000. But always made art and exhibited and traveled around and taught in Europe and taught in New York at various places. And you know, just continue to keep doing what I'm still doing.
Yeah. So now I'm just really curious to learn more about your art. So tell us a bit about your art. Like you're wearing your art right now.
Right.
Yeah. Show us. Tell us a little bit about it. How did you make this hat?
Well, the hat is made from paper towels. So some of it is folded to make these linear things, and the other part is a large piece that's just draped as if it were like fabric. But originally they were all, because I could only get the sheets of the paper towels. So originally they were all folded into strips and then coiled. I didn't bring a coil one here, but anyway, here's this one.
Wow. Wow. This is a totally different look.
Sometimes I take the cuffs and I'll add them here for extra embellishment because, you know, one never has enough embellishments, right?
Yeah.
And some of the other hats I make, I've always made ones out of felt, but not traditionally, even though I did study millinery at FIT. Wait a minute, is it how? Yeah. So this one, the fabric was sent to me from a company in Italy called Design House Gallery about 2 years ago. They sent me a bunch of fabric that I chose, and I turned them into hats. And they have one like this. And you can see, I love being able to wear things in a variety of ways. So that that's, I always say, if I own a garment, if I can't wear it inside out and backwards, it's not worth owning. So I've been saying that for like 40 years.
I love
and then
that.
Like, for instance, I never know what my next hat is going to be made of. And anything that comes into the house that is of curiosity to me can often become a hat.
Is that foam? What is that?
It's foam, yeah, yeah. And so I don't know where this is going to go next, but I just love it.
I love it. It's so cool.
You know, I always say everything's a hat because, you know, a lampshade, a vase, and I used to make lampshades. And since I was in the flower business, I have a lot of vases. So they're all vessels, and anything that's a vessel can be a hat. So I just love this one. Don't you?
This is amazing. It's so iconic. Like it just frames your face so well. And
yeah,
it's
that's what I always say. You know, a hat, it's all about framing your face. You walk in a room, nobody's going to notice whether you have $2,000 shoes on, but they are going to see your face. And so it's either jewelry or a boa, a scarf, or a hat that's going to frame the face. And I've done a whole series of, I'm going to take this off for now, a whole series of workshops that I call boas, bibs, and breastplates. And you can make a boa, a bib, and a breastplate almost out of anything. So for instance, this is a bib or a breastplate, right?
Wow.
And it's just made from a recycled palm leaf plate and tea bags and yarn and pipe cleaners and anything you happen to have around. So it's basically a woven surface, but it's done on this plate that's slightly contoured, so it fits beautifully across the breast. And then the neck part is just yarn I happen to have woven over 2 strands of wire.
Now, did you dye some of these materials with like different colors or?
No, you could, but I'm not into dyeing anymore. I used to. So it's whatever I had around the house. Like the blue is masking tape. I love masking tape, twisted. And then some of it is this green is a piece of that was, you know, from a hat, some of the paper towel folded, and then yarn, and then the yellow with pipe cleaners. And some of this other yellow actually is a mesh bag from onions and produce that I saved them all and used them. So it's just stuff that's floating around that, you know, that I don't want to put in the landfill. And then, for instance, these are versions of boas. So it's just a very simple finger knitting technique that anybody can do on your 5 fingers. I think there are YouTubes showing it, and Martina and I taught it when we did New York Textile Month back in September. And then this has a piece of found metal, again, something that I've been doing since the late 70s is finding metal in the streets. And unfortunately, the cars don't fall apart anymore because they're all plastic. So it's very hard to find metal. And then this is another one just made out of silk roving, which is just the edges, like the selvages, you know, you can buy it. And so it's just knitted in the same way. And they're very cozy. And at the same time, you know, they can make quite a statement. Or you can also wear them kind of as a turban if you want, you know.
Wow. Wow, these are gorgeous.
And this is about as low tech as you can get. So when I teach, I always say I can teach from age 8 to 80. And I remember at the Museum of Modern Art, I taught a hat workshop a few years ago, and there was a 92-year-old woman, and she made the most incredible hat. And I said, and it was just before St. Patrick's Day, so I told her she had to wear it in the St. Patrick's Day parade.
Yeah.
And then I love the Nespresso pods. that
Oh,
most of the
yes.
time go in the landfill, although now they're recollecting them and recycling them. So this is another cuff made on the base of a toilet paper roll, like all of them, and then embellished with the Nespresso pods that I step on and flatten.
Mm.
And
so where are you finding these materials?
Well, I have a friend who drinks a lot of Nespresso coffee, so she saves them for me, and I bring them home and I empty them and wash them. Other things, either, you know, if when I was teaching, I would get materials either at a yarn store or the Department of New York Culture, materials for the arts. If you're teaching, you can go there and you can get all kinds of incredible stuff. A lot of industrial materials that corporations are throwing away. And a lot of it is just old leotards that I cut up, or old tights, or old clothes, old sweaters. For instance, this is a favorite. This is just a bunch of old buttons. And
wow,
my photographer, Denton Taylor, is kind of an engineer, and he always would find on the job industrial waste and he would bring it to me. So that's what the neck part is, and the big black, God knows what it is, but it works for me as jewelry. And this is a favorite because it makes a statement, right?
totally.
You're not that in too many places, and it's easy to wear, and goes with a million things. It's comfortable,
so versatile, and so beautiful, and like eye-catching.
Yeah, eye-catching, right?
And so, like, you're also picking things off the street, right?
Oh yes, not right now anymore, but always before, you know. Okay, so here's another piece of found metal. The spring actually was found in Mexico, in San Miguel, where I was. And the cable part was in the street. It's the same cable that was on the other necklace. And this is a very simple, direct piece, but I love it. To me, it's very special. And then I just put them together either with wire or whatever. You know, I'm not an engineer, so how I assemble things have to be very direct and very, very simple.
Yeah. Well, actually, someone has a question, like, how do you even display all these pieces in your home? Like these are so beautiful, and how do you even store them? Yeah.
Well, I have one little room that's my closet, my hat room, my supply room, my jewelry room, everything. And these are just kind of hanging on hangers, one on top of the other. And they're just there. So people only get to see them if they come in that room, or if I'm wearing them and I'm on the street. But well, I did have a one-person show last year at this time in February at the Ilias Lalunas Jewelry Museum in Athens. Mm-hmm. And it was a one-person show, so it was a huge exhibition. And then COVID happened and the museum had to close. And so the work is still there. So fortunately, the room is not overloaded with stuff, but when that stuff comes back, I'm going to have to rethink how I'm going to be able to store everything again. Mm-hmm. Because in the year since the show, of course, I've made more stuff. And I give it away sometimes. Museums are collecting. In fact, I just donated a piece to MAD, which is a Museum of Art and Design. Mm-hmm. And they're coming next week to pick it up. And then I'm going to work with them to see if they would like some more pieces. At this point in my life, it's time to get rid of my collection. You know, there's no reason to hang on to it. And it's just going to go in the garbage after I die anyway, unless friends come over and take it. Mm. So it's a good time to start donating to museums. Mm. So that's what's happening. My good friend Helen Drutt out of Philadelphia, who's now 90, is very involved in curating shows and writing about wearable art and jewelry. So she's been very influential in getting my work donated to museums all over the world. So I have to thank her for that. Very impressive, because there's no way I would know how to do it.
Yeah, no, that's amazing. Like, this legacy needs to live on.
Yeah. Oh, and I see Barbara Gifford is on from MAD. So she's the one who came over and chose the piece. She's responsible. She's the curator at MAD, Barbara Gifford. And so thank you for being with us, Barbara.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for donating and helping Debra's work live on. And so like how do you treat, there's a question here I just see, how do you treat these cuffs and bracelets to like, you know, protect them from getting wet and falling apart?
Oh, good question. Well, first of all, if I use acrylic paint, and sometimes like with the hats, they're spray painted. And at first I would just use acrylic, but I found that that was too wet. It took too long to dry. But with the spray paint, it treats the paper so that it's impervious. Mm. And with the bracelets, a lot of them, I don't have one here like that, but besides the paint, and oftentimes they're made with postcards and things for images. And then I cover them with mesh from a lot of the produce bags, and that kind of protects the surface from things falling off if there are elements that are like, you know, some twisted cord or something. So that's, and everything is glued. And if something falls off, okay, if somebody buys it and it falls off, then they either send it back to me or I show them just how to take glue and put it back together.
Yeah, yeah. And so you're making hats, you're making like earrings. So what else?
No, I don't make earrings. These are made by a friend.
Okay.
Kay Denmark. I mostly make cuffs, things that wear around the neck, and hats.
Do you make rings?
No, because they have to fit and they're too small. There's not enough space to
play,
express in a ring for me. I love rings. I don't even have that many on today, but it's because they have to fit and they have to kind of be made out of metal or something. So that's not the material that I'm comfortable working with.
Yeah. So what are you making these days?
Well, like for instance, I was, you know, playing with this hat.
Yeah.
And I just finished the necklace that I was wearing before. It's been hanging around and I decided to try to finish it, to mount it. And this may get sent to someplace in England. We have to see. And anything else that comes in that's kind of packaging or, you know, egg crates, you know, I'm not looking for materials, but things show up all the time. And well, I just finished a series of pieces. I'll go get it. It's right here. Which was inspired by something I saw that was from the Metropolitan Museum of Art, made from metal. And so I made my version of it out of toilet paper, cardboard strips, and then assembled together. And so it's meant to be like a bodice, but it could also be a neck piece. And then I made a smaller version, which functions as, as a crown. And again, it's just all from stuff that ordinarily would go in the garbage.
This is stunning. It feels like somehow also your color palette is just always matching. Like it just all works together. How does that happen?
Well, I think that's the beauty of color. I don't think there's any color combination. Oh shoot, that
yeah, I think it's back.
Yeah. Okay, I have to plug it in because it's at low battery. Fortunately, I have the cord here. I think everything can work together. I have a theory that if you repeat something more than twice, then it works. You know, and I don't believe that primary colors have to be with primary and tertiary and secondary have to be. I like to mix bright with dull because to me, it feels like then there's a kind of a rhythm and an accent. So I don't really have a color theory. I just think that color is something we live with and we have to kind of experience it. And, you know, color is a vibration. And that's why we have to eat food with color, because we need those colors. Every color reacts to a chakra. And so to get all the energies in balance in the body and in the universe, color is part of that. We're nothing but a vibration anyway. So any way that we can support that with colorful food, wearing color, surrounding yourself with color in your home, that's all very important. For instance, if you're stuck and nothing is moving, even if you might physically be constipated, then your earth element is really blocked and solid. So your earth element, which is red, which is your lower part of your body, your tail, you need to add water. Water is orange. So either eat some oranges, wear orange, drink more water, surround yourself with orange, and allow the earth element to get a little muddier and softer so there'll be more flow in your life. And the same with fire. Fire is like our solar plexus right in the middle, and it's fire and it's yellow. But we might have too much fire. We might have too much anger. So we need to dilute that either with water, or we need air to come in, which is green, which is the chest, breast element, like the leaves on a tree. And so the air can come in and kind of put out that fire. If it's not in balance, the air may fortify the fire. So that's, you know, it's not a hard science, but it's experiential.
Wow.
So then if you're too hot and too angry, then you need to eat more green vegetables and bring in more air and do more breathing. So it all makes a lot of sense. And that's why it's so important to live with color and eat with color.
Oh my God, New Yorkers are so messed up with the black then? I don't know.
I know. I've never been able to understand that whole black story. But,
oh my God, wow. Someone just pointed your hat is also matching the book cover.
Yeah. So the book, I put the book out here for you to see. This was the show that was at the Philadelphia Museum of Art exactly last November to March, but it closed in March. And it was called Off the Wall, American Art to Wear. And I don't know how many of you remember the store Julie's that used to be on Madison Avenue. It was a wearable art store. And most of the exhibition was from her private collection because she collected all those years since the 70s. And it was an extraordinary show. And I was lucky enough to have 3 pieces in the show. And then I was supposed to go do a hat making workshop there, 2 of them in March, but the museum closed and it all got canceled. Oh. But it's a wonderful book. It's a great document. And, you know, the show covered works from the late 60s until almost the present. Yeah.
Great.
Very important show. And Dilys Blum was the curator and Mary Chaucer from England.
Yeah. I have a few questions in the chat that I'm going to start taking really quickly. How did you get involved with advanced style? And what was that like?
Oh, that's a very easy story. My good friend Susan Wick was visiting from Denver. We went to the new museum one rainy day. And I go to the coat check and get rid of my umbrella and raincoat. And this young man comes running up to me and he says, my name is Ari Seth Cohn and I photograph women over 60. Can I take your picture? And I said, how do you know I'm over 60? And he said, oh, but I forgot my camera today. So I whipped out a business card and I said, here, Ari, here's my card. Come on over. I'll dress up. I'll undress and I'll even make you a vegetarian lunch. And so I didn't hear from him in 5 days. So I called him and he came over and we spent the day together photographing everything, cooking and clothes and artwork. And the rest is history.
Yeah.
And so that was
amazing.
11 years ago. Yeah. And, you know, then he started with the blog and then Lina Plioplate came on the scene and she being Lithuanian and I'm half Lithuanian. I adopted her. I said, I'll be your New York mother. And she was the one who first started doing the video work for the film and then did the film. And that went on for 3 or 4 years. And then I think the editing took 2 or 3 years. And that's all history.
Yeah. Where's a good place to start when making your first piece? What's a good, easy piece to start with? This is a question from Vanessa.
Using anything you have around the house. Again, particularly toilet paper rolls. We all have them.
Yeah.
And so again, you could make a boa like this, or you could make a cuff. You can even turn them into a hat. And, you know, if you cut into it and destroy it, there are always more. And you can paint it, or you can glue postcards or images on. And all you need is a scissor. I just did a video workshop that they showed last night at the Neue Austrian and German gallery, where I made these bracelets, and the video, it was very quick, but just using the toilet paper roll, cutting it, weaving it, paint, and a little glue. And that's as easy as you can get. Otherwise, look around your house and be inspired. You can use plastic bags. You can cut up plastic bags and crochet. You can go online and learn how to do finger knitting, which anybody can do. And then you can make the boas out of them. And because it's tubular, you can also stuff it with anything: old yarn, old socks, old leotards. Old leotards and t-shirts are wonderful if you cut them up and make them into a linear element and then just work with them. Mm-hmm. So look around your house and be inspired. The mesh bags from produce are fabulous. Twigs in the street are always wonderful.
Yeah. A question from Elizabeth. Could you quickly walk us through the paper towel transformation process? Like, the hats bear no resemblance to the roll on my counter.
Under advanced style, do it DIY with Debra. There's a video on YouTube and it shows you the whole thing. If you give me 1 second, I'll go get another hat and some elements and show you, because I don't have one of those right here.
Wow, I just can't believe. Are we all looking at things around our house that we're going to turn them into hats and necklaces and things? I definitely am very inspired. I don't know how am I going to even begin, but this is wild. Yeah.
Hey, I'm back. So these are the elements. These are all prepared to take to the Philadelphia Museum, but it got canceled. So it's just the paper towel folded into long strips. And I can't really explain right here. It's just that you take a length and you fold it in half and in half and a third, and you glue it. And then once you have these elements, then you just begin and you can just start coiling it like you would a coiled basket or a coiled ceramic pot. And you just keep building. You just keep adding one layer on top of the other. It's very, very basic, right? Just coiling. And then you can deviate and leave some loose, and so that you've got more dimension, and you can run some other ones through it. But the basic form is just making your linear elements and then just building with them. So you can see on this hat, the linear elements were done vertically. This one is, I haven't made too many like this. And then the other linear element is used for the embellishment. But if you go to advanced style, do it yourself with Debra hats, you can find all that information from beginning to end, how to make a hat out of paper towels. The Viva paper towel, I can't find at the moment anymore in full sheets, and the half sheets then make it less strong. But this is Scott paper towel, which has the same texture. And I get this at Home Depot because it's industrial strength. And the blue is kind of fun too. So if you need to find the exact thing, you can use other paper towels, but they're too papery. And then they have the embossed texture, while this is very cloth-like, and it takes paint beautifully and it works beautifully.
There's a question from Lisa. Is there a hat making class in VAWAA's future? Debra and I were talking about it, so we'll keep you all posted, hopefully.
Okay, yeah, that's very possible. it's easy enough to do it, you know, online. So it's a
Yes.
possibility.
There's a question from Lisa Woods. Any other rules of thumbs you work with, like framing the face and in your work?
Yes. Frugality is fun.
Mm.
So that if you use what's in your environment, and you know, we live in a very consumption culture. Whoops. So I think frugality is fun. If we use what we have and keep it out of the landfill, it can really make you more creative than going and buying very expensive, fancy materials. When I was in graduate school, people were buying silk yarn and weaving with silk. I didn't want to do that. It was too easy to take something beautiful. If I bought silk, I just loved it as a hank of yarn, and I would just wear it as a necklace, as a hank. So I prefer to just work with rope, or I went to the TV station and I got videotape and I crocheted and knitted with videotape. So frugality is fun. Style is healing. Frame the face.
Mm-hmm.
Dress to de-stress. I think that's very important now. We're all very stressed and there's a lot of anxiety. And we're hanging around the house a lot in our pajamas and sweat clothes. But it does help to get dressed, put some makeup on, put some earrings on, and dress up. It does change the mood. So style is healing. Not fashion, not shopping, not trends, but your own personal style.
Mm.
And I told you my other one about with creativity, there are no rules. And where there are no rules, there is no fear. What else?
These are all so powerful. I mean, I just even like looking at how we've all been dressing during COVID. Like I'm sure, like you said, you know, sweats and we're in those all day long. Like to bring these elements into our day to day will probably make our survival through these times way more easier and better.
I think it's important to curate your closet. We all have so much in our closet, we don't even know what's there. So go in and start rearranging and start putting different things together. You don't need to go shopping at H&M and buy more stuff. Just find what you have and recreate with it.
Yeah.
I think we were talking about, you know, what is there to look forward to in 2021 and what's on the horizon? Well, I don't really have a bucket list and I don't know, but I came up with 3 words that I'm focusing on, and it's containment, contentment, and creativity. So I could just stay home and be happy doing those 3 things.
Wait, so it's containment, contentment?
Yeah, and creativity.
Love it. Love it. So on that note, there's a question. What advice do you have for young designers these days? This is a question from Adria.
Well, if you're talking about the industry, I have no experience with the industry. I don't even know how to address that, other than the industry is obviously going to change or is changing in the process of being more sustainable. And I think there's a lot of individual creativity going on, and people are making one of a kind. They're repurposing things and going to thrift shops and swap meets and getting things and turning them into something new and selling them either on Shopify or something, it's a label, or Etsy. I'm not even sure, but there's a lot happening out there. My friend Martina and Bunny and several of you are involved with that and the industry. I'm the wrong one to talk to about the industry. Mm-hmm. But you got to, again, trust yourself and find your truth and do what you love and make the things you believe in, and you'll be discovered.
That's, again, it's going back to the 4 tenets, the 4 T's, like trusting yourself, tolerating. No, first is trust. Oh, we have to remind ourselves. It's
truth. Your truth is first.
Truth.
Find your truth.
Yes. And then trusting it.
Right. And
then
then being
tolerating
tolerant.
it.
And then wrap it all in tenderness.
Wow. Wow. This truly holds true. And like, as we're all looking forward to 2021, like, I'm definitely going to hold this to myself and put it up on my wall and go forward with it. I think like, despite everything that's going on in 2021, it is going to be a good year for all of us.
Can you tell us a little more how you started VAWAA? What were you doing before? I know you were traveling a lot and that's what got you inspired.
Yeah, sure.
A little more about that?
Yeah, we have a minute or so, but I'll quickly tell the story. But I grew up as a designer. I studied architecture and I was living in India at that time. And I was just going and spending a month with master crafts people all over India and spending like a week or 2 weeks or a month with them. And I was just blown away by their lifestyles, because it was not just learning the skill from them, but it was, you know, how they got through when they were stuck in a creative process, or how did they deal with you know, different challenges, how did they innovate, and just almost getting a peek into their mind was so transformative. And these artists are also representation of the culture, right? Like, artists are defining culture in real life. So it was also a great way to understand the place, the people. And so I've just always found that immersing yourself and spending time with creative masters is just like the epitome of of wisdom and magic, and it has always moved me. So I just felt that the world needs more of that, and if we could access more of that wisdom, I think we would all be in a better place. So I was working at an agency here in New York, designing brands and products for big companies. And I thought, let's just make this happen. So I traveled for a year to find these masters. I went to 12 countries. I spent a month in each country finding these masters, and then building the site called VAWAA, VAWAA.com, where you can go and book apprenticeships with these masters. And so that's how it all worked. And so now, yeah, people have been traveling to Vietnam, to Japan, to Spain, Uruguay, everywhere. Well, not right now, but going for these apprenticeships. And it's been just so amazing to see that as we get older, like, you know, or at any time when we realize that there is a deep passion in us that we want to make happen, that we can access these masters to get us, to help us get there. So it's like a great starting point. And it has really helped a lot of people. So we just want to see more of that.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
More sharing of the creative process.
That's right. That's right. Well, we are at time. This was so wonderful, Debra. Thank you so much. It was just so fun to have you. Like, if you look at these chat comments, like, everyone is just so inspired by you. I am so always inspired by you. So thank you so much.
You're welcome. Now everybody go home and go play. Okay, go find some trash. My nickname is Debra Debris or Residue Rapoport. So go find something to play with and enjoy the day.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, everyone. Have a wonderful Saturday playing.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you. I love you, Debra.
Thank you. Bye.
Thanks so much. That was great. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for sharing.
Love you, Debra.
Love you. Thank you, Debra.
Going to make onion skin.
Thank you, everyone. Bye.
Bye.